In 1221, in the Persian city of Nishapur, the Mongols raised a pyramid containing 1.7 million human skulls. Men, women, children, and even dogs were beheaded in just 10 days. The man responsible? Genghis Khan, the emperor who, between 1206 and 1227, built the largest contiguous empire in human history, killing an estimated 40 million people, roughly 11% of the world population at the time. This is the story of the man who turned the Mongolian steppes into an extermination machine that shook 3 continents. By the late 12th century, Mongolia was a chaotic mosaic of warring nomadic tribes. Merkits, Tatars, Karaits, Naimans, and Mongols fought constantly over pastureland under brutal winters of -40 degrees. To the south, the Jin dynasty ruled northern China. To the west, the Khwarezmian and Abbasid empires dominated Central Asia and the Middle East. Nobody imagined that from those steppes would emerge the man who would redraw the map of Eurasia in just 2 decades of ruthless military campaigns. He was born around 1162 and named Temujin, son of Yasugei, chief of the Borjigin clan. According to the secret history of the Mongols, he came into the world gripping a blood clot in his right hand, a sign of a warrior destined for power. At age 9 he lost his father, poisoned by Tatars. His family was abandoned by their own clan and forced to survive eating roots, rats, and fish. That childhood of hunger and betrayal would forge the most ruthless leader Asia had ever known. By the age of 20, Temujin began gathering loyal warriors, basing promotion on merit rather than noble blood. In 1183 he married Borte, who was kidnapped by Merkits shortly after. He rescued her with a devastating raid, demonstrating the brutality that would become his signature. He defeated his Anda, blood brother, Jamukha in successive battles, including Khoitan in 1201. In 1206, a Kurultai gathered all the tribes of the steppes and proclaimed him Genghis Khan, which means universal ruler. In 1209, Genghis Khan attacked the Tanguts of the western Xia kingdom, forcing heavy tribute in gold and silk. In 1211 he turned against the mightier Jin dynasty. With only about 90,000 horsemen, he invaded northern China, defended by millions. The Mongol cavalry used composite bows that shot arrows 300 meters and marched up to 100 kilometers per day. In 1215, after a brutal siege, the Jin capital Zhongdu, modern Beijing, was sacked and burned. Witnesses reported bones piled high, covering the city walls. Genghis Khan was a brilliant strategist, but also a cold, methodical man. He slept in simple tents, ate the same food as his soldiers, and imposed a strict moral code called the Yasa, which punished betrayal with immediate death. Illiterate himself, he demanded his sons learn the Uyghur alphabet. He tolerated all religions in his domains but was absolutely ruthless with those who resisted. His most quoted phrase, recorded by Persian historian Rashid al-Din, "The greatest joy is to defeat your enemies and take everything they have." His generals formed a lethal inner circle. Subutai, considered by historians one of the greatest commanders in history, would win more than 20 campaigns. Jeeb, the archer, once shot the Khan himself in the neck before surrendering and becoming his subordinate. Mughali dominated northern China. On the other side, powerful enemies, Shah Muhammad II of Khwarezm, with an army of 400,000 men, and the Abbasid Caliph al-Mustasim, direct heir of the Prophet, trusting in the walls of Baghdad, built nearly 5 centuries earlier. In 1218, Genghis Khan sent ambassador merchants to the Khwarezmian Empire to open trade along the Silk Road. The governor of Otrar, Inalchuk, accused them of spying, confiscated their goods, and had all 450 merchants executed. When a new envoy arrived demanding reparations, Shah Muhammad II ordered him shaved and sent back humiliated. The head of another ambassador was returned inside a sack. It was the most fatal decision in Khwarezmian history. Genghis Khan climbed the sacred mountain and swore vengeance to the eternal skies. Between 1219 and 1221, the Mongols crashed down on Khwarezm with roughly 150,000 warriors. Otra fell after a 5-month siege. Inalchuk had molten silver poured into his eyes and ears. Bokhara was reduced to ashes in February 1220. Samarkand fell in 3 days. Urgench was submerged when they diverted the Amu Darya River. In Nishapur, 1221, after the death of the Khan's son-in-law Togakar, his widow ordered total extermination. 1.7 million people were beheaded, skull pyramids separated by gender and age. The Islamic world fell into panic. Chroniclers like Ibn al-Athir, an eyewitness of the era, wrote, "If someone said that since the creation of Adam no disaster of equal magnitude ever occurred, they would be speaking the truth." Exaggerated rumors spread across Europe. A mythical Eastern Christian king, the legendary Prester John, was destroying Islam. Pope Honorius III even believed the Mongols were Christian allies. Reality was far worse. Entire cities turned to dust, universities were burned, and trade routes vanished. In the months following the destruction of Khwarezm, Jebe and Subutai conducted a legendary reconnaissance expedition. They circled the Caspian Sea, invaded the Caucasus, and defeated Georgians, Cumans, and Russians at Khalkha on May 31, 1223, killing 6 princes of Kievan Rus. Modern estimates calculate that between 1219 and 1222 roughly 15 million people died in Central Asia alone, out of a total population of 25 million. Fields were abandoned for decades. Persia lost 3/4 of its population. Craftsmen, engineers, and doctors were spared and sent to Mongolia, enriching the capital Karakorum. Young women were distributed as slaves. Children taller than the axle of a Mongol cart were killed. Persian historian Juvayni recorded that in Merv, 1221, only 400 artisans survived among 1.3 million inhabitants. The Arab geographer Yaqut, who fled the region, described ghost cities with corpses rotting in the streets for months, with no one to bury them. The stench, he said, was unbearable for kilometers. There was no trial. Genghis Khan was the supreme law of the Yasa, a code written around 1206 that regulated everything from herding to executions. It condemned adultery, theft, and treason with death. Spies were publicly tortured. In 1227, during a siege against the rebelling Tanguts, the Khan died at age 65, possibly after falling from his horse. His body was taken secretly to Mongolia. Legend says 800 escorting soldiers and 2,000 servants were executed to hide the location. To this day, his tomb remains unknown. In Western Europe, news of the massacres arrived distorted by years of distance. Franciscan monks like Giovanni de Pien del Carpine only reached the Mongol court in 1246 and wrote the first detailed European accounts. In China, the Yuan dynasty, founded by Kublai Khan in 1271, rewrote history presenting Genghis as a founding hero. Surviving Persian records, like those of Rashid al-Din, preserved the massacre numbers but were censored in various Islamic periods. The truth took centuries to be reconstructed by historians. Genghis Khan became a paradoxical figure, a bloodthirsty villain to Persians, Russians, and Chinese, an absolute national hero to modern Mongolians. His equestrian statue at Sanjan Bulldog, inaugurated in 2008, stands 40 meters tall and is the largest in the world. A 2003 genetic study, published in the American Journal of Human Genetics, identified a Y chromosome that appears in 8% of men from the former Mongol region and in about 16 million men worldwide, or 0.5% of humanity. His DNA, literally, conquered the planet. The Mongol Empire, later divided into 4 khanates, lasted until 1368 in China and remained as the Golden Horde in Russia until 1480. It imposed the Pax Mongolica, a period of about 100 years in which the Silk Road flourished under Mongol security, allowing Marco Polo to reach Beijing in 1275. But the environmental cost was also historic. a Carnegie University study estimated that the massacres sequestered 700 million tons of carbon from the atmosphere, as forests reclaimed abandoned farmland. No other human event caused a comparable climatic impact. Genghis Khan's psychological warfare tactics, terrorizing rebel cities so that neighboring ones surrendered without a fight, are still studied in military academies like West Point. His military meritocracy inspired modern reforms, and the Yam postal system, with stations every 40 kilometers, is considered the direct ancestor of postal services and global communication networks. Even cultural globalization has its roots in the Pax Mongolica, when Chinese technologies like gunpowder and printing migrated westward for the first time on a large scale. 800 years later, Genghis Khan remains the most contradictory historical figure ever recorded, exterminator of civilizations and, at the same time, father of a new world order. His grandsons burned Baghdad, took Moscow, invaded Poland and Hungary, stopped at the gates of Austria in 1241. He died with no known tomb, but left 40 million deaths and 16 million living descendants in his wake. If you enjoyed this video, like it and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories.